Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of the Clock Hour. Thank you for tuning in. I am here today with the special guest, Miss Tracie Bernardi. How are you?
Hi, everyone. Hi.
So, Miss Tracie, is that okay to call you that?
Absolutely.
All right. You were recommended, to come to my show. What is it that you do? And where are you from?
So originally I'm from Waterbury, Connecticut. I was recommended to come to your show because I am somebody who runs a nonprofit organization today called Once Incarcerated, Once Inc.
Okay.
And I run the nonprofit because I was incarcerated for 23 years.
Cool.
And
You seem pretty young.
yeah, I'm almost 48. Yeah. I was incarcerated from the time I was 19 until I was 42. And I saw a lot of stuff within the system that needed help and things that could be done that were not being done. And so when I came home, I decided that I was going to go tell it on the mountain.
Right, and that's a good thing. I come from that system. I worked for them, and what used to get me was I would hear people talk about it, and then when they go home, I didn't see anything. Mm-hmm. So you were a woman of action.
It's funny that you say that because that gives me the opportunity to say something that went through my mind while I was incarcerated. During my incarceration, I used to see women come in and out of jail.
Right.
And every time somebody was going home, while they were there, they missed their children. They utilize whatever programming that they can get in. A lot of programming that's in prison either really sucks or is just unavailable if it's any good. And then they would get through all their program, they would do everything, and then they would go home. And then the next thing you know, you see them come back. And I used to judge them.
You did?
I was like, how dare they? I have a 30-year sentence. It's my first time ever being arrested, and these people are coming in and out. But when I came home, mm-hmm. I realized what a system is, how far the system is set up to keep us down when you're formerly incarcerated. I realized what it's like to live with a record, not to be able to put your name on leases, not to be able to apply for jobs without disclosing your criminal history, and basically opening yourself up to discrimination. And so I saw that a lot of the people came back and forth to prison because society itself thinks that it has the right to perform double jeopardy and punish us after we've already been sentenced.
After you did your time.
Yeah, they don't want to let us re-enter. They think that they have the right to bar us, but what they don't realize is they're contributing to the crime rate, because by saying no to us, and you're pushing us from doing legal things into doing illegal things. And then you say, oh, well, why are they doing illegal things? Well, you're not giving us opportunities because you're basing your judgment on a crime that happened who knows when.
Right. 23, woo.
Yeah.
First offense?
Yeah.
Ooh, that was, and one thing I used to try to do is, if someone was going home, I would sit down with them.
Yeah.
And I'd ask them, what are you gonna do? I wasn't being judgmental. I didn't even like asking people what they were there for. My thing was, what are you gonna do? And if they say, well, I don't know, I say, well, let me see. And I'd sit on the computer when we started having computers, and find different, I say, well, where are you going? I'd look for different programs in that particular area, anywhere from Florida all the way up to Maine, mm-hmm. And it was just interesting when you see people that really, it's a culture shock, like, okay, I'm getting ready to go home now. And it's an adjustment. So I'm sure you had to get adjusted from where you were at.
I'm smiling, and it's not because none of it is funny, but I smile sometimes when I tell my story because it's almost like it's a fairy tale, almost like.
Right.
And in keeping with fairy tales, I tell everyone that when I came home, I was like Fred Flintstone and I was coming to the Jetsons. When I went to jail in 1993, we had payphones everywhere. There was actually a beeper involved in my case. There was no cell phones. There was no internet. There was none of that.
Right.
And then I come home 23 years later and my mom hands me an iPhone. And I'm like, I'm hanging up on people. It just wasn't, it didn't go.
You're looking at it like a foreign object, like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You know, and funny you mentioned that. I just retired in December.
Okay.
I used to come in and talk to them about whatever they saw on TV. I bring a magazine and point certain things out. So someone said, thank you, because I'm like, listen, things are moving very fast. You got to figure, I'm into music too, so I started my label back in 04, 05. Mm-hmm. Later on down the road, here comes MySpace. Then here comes Facebook. Then here comes, so it was a matter of trying to keep up with all of that. Mm-hmm. You know, it was just, everything is just moving so fast. Now, even when you look at it, TikTok, then you got this, then you got that. And, you know, even, so they didn't come out running around in circles. I said, listen, take your time. I said, if you got to go home and sit down for a week or so, sit down. 2 weeks, sit down. Gather your thoughts.
But nobody wants to do that.
Right.
Nobody's going to do that.
Right.
It's a beautiful sentiment, and I wish that we could.
Right.
But when you're incarcerated, you've already missed enough of your life. You've already missed enough of everything. So I think every day after, you spend so much time running. So if someone said, oh, when you get home, I want you to sit down. I want you to, hell no, I'm taking off running. Like I'm like 23 years behind. How could I, you know? So, I mean, I get what you're saying and I appreciate that,
But even being from Waterbury is very small. Mm-hmm. So the things that you missed, some of it's still here. Most of the people, right?
I don't know. I missed childbearing age. That's not still here. I missed a lot. Everything's different. I mean, even the food's different. I mean, not to say, you know, it's just how much things take place in 23 years.
Right.
Like so much stuff happened. And, you know, Waterbury is, you know, it still has the green, the little brass horse is still not cleaned off.
Yes, in the park.
You know, my arresting officer is now our mayor.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. I don't hold anything against him.
It's his job.
It was his job. I was a kid, and I actually have seen him. I'm an ACLU Smart Justice Leader. I work for American Civil Liberties as well as being the executive director for my organization.
So
and
people need to be able to reach you.
Yeah, so I'm available at onceincarcerated@gmail.com, and I'm also available. You can look up my organization at onceincarcerated.org, and yeah, I mean, I'm definitely available. I talk at colleges and universities across the state. I speak. They recently did a play that I was involved in with Yale, Wesleyan. We recently did another play. I'm doing a lot of stuff, but the most stuff that I enjoy is what I'm doing with my organization itself and with ACLU. Because with ACLU, we changed a few laws. We recently changed Prosecutorial Transparency. I don't know if you know, but
I've heard that before, but you have to explain that.
So prosecutors in the state of Connecticut are very, very behind on their data system, right? So a lot of people talk about how the system is really messed up towards Black and brown people, and I can tell you it is, straight up.
Right.
And that's from white skin that I say that, and it's the truth.
Right.
It's also messed up for everyone else that's in it, because as soon as you become in the system, if you were supposedly a first-class citizen before because of your skin color, you are no longer. You are now, you know, a disgrace to people. It's horrible, the way that people look at you, and but it doesn't matter because those people don't count.
So the system is broken.
Yeah, so the system's really broken, and what I do in my organization is we have a group. It's a once in anonymous. It's like AA and NA, but it's for formerly incarcerated people, and it's currently on Zoom. Prior to COVID, we started doing it in libraries across Connecticut, but when COVID happened, we took it to Zoom, which everyone else did, and it's working out great because it's more accessible. We have formerly incarcerated people. We come on every Saturday at noon, and I'm missing my meeting today.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So we come in on Saturday at noon, and we basically it's like AA and NA. When I was in prison, I sat in AA and NA meetings, and I really wasn't an alcoholic or a drug addict, but I did it because I needed a meeting.
And you needed to know.
You know, not necessarily. I already was exposed enough, but I needed a meeting, so I was violating these people's space. You know, they're talking about something that they think everybody has in common.
Right.
But so I realized formerly incarcerated people need a group just for formerly incarcerated people.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because some of them reach out to me.
Yeah.
And
We could definitely recommend our group.
you hear certain things and you're like, really? Like Miss Bryant. She used to approach me all the time on the compound, and she was involved with church. She's the young lady who President Obama gave clemency to.
Okay.
She would reach out to me, and people just said thank you. I was never there to judge. I just did a podcast with some people recently. I was the first CEO ever.
Wow.
They've never had a CEO on there.
Wow.
So I was like, I'll do it. I don't mind speaking. It gives a different perspective.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking from the other side of the fence. You know, you're looking out the window and you meet these people. Like, I worked at the women's. So way back when I first started, Niantic was deportation holding. So, you see these people and you have to be empathetic when you work in a women's facility.
You should be.
Well,
you don't have to be.
No, I don't.
Not
but
everyone is. That's what I'm saying.
I was.
You should be.
I
Yes.
was.
Most people should.
Yeah.
Decent people will.
And I told someone, I said, when I walked in there, first of all, it was a culture shock. Second of all, someone's grandmother, someone's mother,
what I
someone's
always
sister,
say.
someone's aunt, someone's daughter.
Yeah, that's what I always say. A lot of the political stuff that I do, a lot of the white Republicans and a lot of the people, they don't think that it could happen to their kid.
No.
And so, and I'm saying I could be your sister, I could be your daughter.
Exactly.
I could be and would you want them to sentence your 19-year-old child to 30 years in jail?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Would you, and they say, oh, well, my kid wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
My kid wouldn't do that. Well, all kids get caught up in peer pressure at some point, and that's what happened to me. And I ended up, running with a gang, and then one thing led to another, and the next thing I know, I'm in jail, and I have this responsibility on my hand that I can't undo.
Right.
And people think, oh, it can't happen to my kid. I was in 1989 when I was 15 years old. I was Miss Junior Teen Hartford, and I was Miss Junior Teen Photogenic. And then think about it. That was 15 years old. 4 years later, boom, I'm incarcerated.
Wow.
And and all because I was trying to find love. All because I was a dumb kid who thought that I could find love in a gang, and I didn't understand that I was giving my life over.
Right.
And
that's unique that you say this because, Danbury was federal. So you meet those young ladies who were affiliated bosses, and I said, one story that really bothered me, and I remember it to this day. I'm probably not even supposed to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. I used to do the transport. So when you have a child and you're incarcerated, either you make arrangements with your family to come pick up the child, or the state comes pick up the child, whatever state you're from, you make those arrangements. So one young lady, she made arrangements with her family. They hadn't picked up the baby yet, so I had to take her. That bothered me. That out of 23 years, that bothered me the most.
You had to take her before her baby was still there, and she
Yes.
probably broke. Yeah, that's one thing that people don't realize. Like,
That bothered me.
That's taken. They don't care. They don't care if women in prison. Recently, they changed some rules about shackling and stuff during pregnancy.
Right? Yeah, they did. I remember that.
But women in prison that have their excuse me, that have their babies in prison, it's so terrible. When they come back, they before having the babies, they leave and they come, they're this happy person with optimistic, and then they go to the hospital and then they basically get their baby snatched away from them until their sentence is up. And it's really sad,
Right.
and that's not even just that. You think about, like me, I'm also a child of generational incarceration. I had a parent that was incarcerated when I was little, and then I grew up and I became incarcerated. And we look at the cycle, and the system does not care. They could take parents away from kids for the stupidest crime ever,
Right.
just because they're trying to
It's a big
satisfy.
business.
Yeah, and it's like they're trying to satisfy angry, unforgiving society that most of them call themselves Christians, but have no room for forgiveness in their heart. And to me, I don't know. I just think that there's a lot of stuff in society that really needs to be worked on,
And discussed.
Yeah.
It's interesting because no one would. A lot of people they fall on deaf ears. And my mission, and I'm glad that you came today, was to get them a platform to have a voice.
Yeah.
Here's your voice, here's your voice, here's your voice. You can speak, you can say whatever you gotta say to get it out there. And that was part of one of my missions outside of everything else that I do.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, how can I do this? They say, well, you can't write a book until 2 years down the road.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. But it needs to be discussed because for some reason, it's different. Like we got men back in 2014, 15. So men on the compound, and you have a female low in a camp in Danbury. But you go down there with the men, it's different. By nature, you're nurturers.
Yeah.
And caregivers and stuff by nature. So I remember sitting in the lobby, and this guy, he had to drop his mom off. I understood where he was coming from, but he was really getting a little bit belligerent. So I leaned over the desk and whispered something in his ear, and he left. Spanish guy, Spanish people are gonna look out for your moms. Soon as she hit the compound, they got her. And that's what happens. And you watch the different, and there's people that are just.
Oh, so you basically let them know your mama's gonna be okay. They
Yes.
got her. She's Puerto Rican. They go.
She's Spanish.
They got her. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
They
That's
got her.
Yeah.
But he was really barking something. And I had to
because
tell him.
people, well, I mean, if you think about it,
Right.
you might think that in your eyes, as somebody that was working for corrections and not
Right.
a part of living corrections,
Right.
even though his mom was going to be taken care of, people will look out
Right.
for her, be nice to her, whatever, she's also going to be strip searched.
Right.
That's like rape.
I was
every
trying
time.
to ease him. I
I know,
really was.
I know.
was trying to
but,
ease him.
but like strip search is like rape every time, especially because they let you be raped by, and I have nothing against bisexual people or gay people or anything like that, because like I did my thing while I was incarcerated. It's not that, but it's when somebody is openly gay and they're a woman and they're strip searching you,
Right.
that's some shit. They shouldn't be looking at my body if they're also attracted to my body, because if that's the case, why are men not allowed to search me? you know, and
Yeah, that's a slippery slope right there.
well,
You know,
it is, but it's also,
I worked for the state of Georgia also. And you go in, you do what you got to do. Boom, boom, boom. My thing is, let me run through it and get it over with.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But coming here with women and knowing and seeing and understanding. See, what I would always do is sit back and just watch and listen, you know, and some of them would talk to me.
Yeah.
Like I was explaining to the gentleman the other night that I said, man, I used to sit down and eat with them. What do you mean? I said, I would sit with, because I worked in the kitchen. I was a CO for 3 in Danbury,
Yeah.
CO in Georgia for a year and a half, 2, came back to Connecticut. I worked for the Renaissance Drug Rehab. I did that back in '99. So I've been involved with the system for a long time. So all I'm doing is listening. Okay, what's that? What are you doing? What are you talking about? What's the problem? Is something going on? And I would just listen. Like, there's a lady, and I find out they gave her 2 life sentences. How do you give somebody 2 and 3 life sentences?
That's something that we're working on too for under 25s. We're working on a bill for under 25s because you don't, how do you give someone 2 life sentences? How do you give a child who went into prison? They say scientifically that if you're under 25, your
Right.
brain is not fully developed.
I've heard that.
They say that the decision-making realm of your brain is not developed.
Right.
Therefore, how can you be held accountable to make decisions for such, like, so I know someone that's in jail right now, a girl. She's in jail. She's been in jail since she was 18 years old. She went in when I went in. She went in a little after me. She went in '94. Yeah, and she's still there, right? Now, we had the same, both felony murders. But she's from Hartford. I'm from Waterbury. I got a 30-year sentence. She got a 50-year sentence.
Wow.
You know, she's black, I'm white. I don't know if that came into it because, to be honest, my case, all my co-defendants were Puerto Rican, so I didn't have any of that white privilege going on that they say.
Were you part of that book that came out from up there? I read that.
That is a question. I was not part of that book. I was a part of a book that
You know what a book I'm talking about, right?
Yes, I was supposed to be in a book recently, the one that was going to come out. And just don't say the person's name because...
So they never did a second book?
No, they did another book, but it didn't go very well. And so it never came out, and I was part of the reason that the book was stopped.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was pretty...
Because I read
That was a beautiful book.
the first book from the different inmates that...
Yes.
I read
Yes.
that. The young... Yeah, I read it.
Yeah.
It was actually good.
Yeah, there was going to be a lawsuit and stuff, so that's why I'm trying to... But
So let me ask you a question then.
That book was wonderful.
I'm poking the bear now.
Okay.
Who benefited from the book?
In that instant, and that book that came out, I guess...
The institution?
No, the women in the book got paid to do the book.
Okay. So they paid them upfront cash.
Yeah, the women in those books. The book that I was involved in, there was some stuff that happened with it, and it didn't... I just don't want to get into it.
Right.
But no one benefited from this book.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
the book never came out.
Yeah, it came out. It was published, but it stopped. You can read about it. You can look it up in the newspaper.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I was just interested because
I just don't
you were
wanna-
up there and I remember
I
that
was
book.
in solitary confinement while that book was there. I was in solitary confinement for 7 years straight. I was involved
Really?
in that class. Yes, I know.
And you're not crazy? You're not crazy.
No, well, to be honest, no, I'm not crazy. I was a child, as I was
Right.
saying,
You were a baby.
I was under 25, and I was sentenced to more years than the number of years that that's what I was saying we were fighting.
Right.
We're fighting people who were under the age of 25 who were incarcerated for more years than the number of years that they were alive at the commission of the crime. So if I am 25 when I commit my crime, you can't give me more than, this would be our ideal. You can't give me more than 25 years. If I was 18 at the time of my crime and you think my crime was really heinous, then the most time you can give me is 18 years. It's depending, and it's because you should not be able to if you're scientifically, it's proven that my brain was not developed, why should you be able to sentence me? And what is wrong with DOC? And if
And
they can't,
you were in the shoe for
yeah, I'll get there.
7 years.
If what's wrong with DOC if they can't correct somebody within the number of years that they were alive? You know what I'm saying? If DOC is really corrections, which it's not.
It's babysitting.
It's definitely, yeah. But so, yes, I was in solitary confinement for 7 years straight.
Wow.
From the beginning of 2001 to the end of 2007.
Wow.
Yeah. Connecticut, it's almost unfair because you don't have the real aspect because you're mostly federal, right?
Right.
State prison and federal prison are two different.
Yeah, they're two different animals.
Yeah, and there's the way that women are treated in the state of Connecticut to this day by the guards, how you're talking about that you can sit down and you can discuss stuff and pull stuff up, and it's not an actuality.
That's because I actually cared.
Yeah, you would be undue familiarity in the state of Connecticut.
Shame on them.
You would be punished for caring. That's what they do.
Because if you're telling me something is corrections, how do you correct it?
Well,
maybe
you should get some guards up here on your show and ask them, is your job to punish or is your job to correct and rehabilitate? Well, that's the confusion.
Right.
That's the confusion.
know.
When we get that
need you to come
situation
back.
straight, absolutely.
I really do because you are interesting. And you know what? I've always just waited for the opportunity to be able to talk about what I know or what I've seen, you know what I mean? Just like we're going to get back into it, but I got to have you back though.
Okay.
One day when your schedule's free, you say, Marv, I want to come back.
Okay.
You know, you could bring some people along or whatever you want to do. I'm here. And if you need my help anywhere, I got you. So let's tell the audience again how to get a hold of you or even to find you.
You can reach me at onceincarcerated@gmail.com. That's my organization. You can look it up at onceincarcerated.org. And we definitely need donations. We don't just run the group. We do a lot of other stuff, and you can look us up. I know we're short on time.
That's all right. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make sure I get that so this way I can reach out to you.
Yep.
Once incarcerated.
Yep. And it's all together. Once incarcerated.
Because once they see it.
Yep, I'll even get you my co-founder, Larice Harvey, to do a podcast.
You said .org?
.org is my website, yes. And my Gmail is the same thing at gmail.com.
Okay, got it. All right, I thank you for coming through.
Thank you.
And we could do this all day. They always know when I get started, I'll be talking, and I got questions.
I know you do. I'll come back. I'll come back.
Definitely. Because I've been trying to get Miss Cooper up here also.
Oh, yeah, she's wonderful.
Yeah. And, someone recommended me to her, and it's been gravy ever since. I thank everybody for tuning in. More to come. This show is for the people, by the people, about the people. That's my motto. For the people, by the people, about the people. So y'all stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you, and I thank you for coming out. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.